In this lesson, we'll build some spokes for the front wheel. So let's jump in here, and let's go ahead and select our group. Again, we can just select one piece of it, hit the up arrow to go to the top group here, the parent. And you can see we still need to go ahead and parent that second piece in. So now we have the wheel back. Let's go ahead and duplicate it, and we can move it actually to the origin. Okay, to work on for just a minute. Alright, so we want to create something like this. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is create a base for this to, because this is all seamless, so I want a base for this to kind of extrude from. So let's create a polygon primitive cylinder. Okay, kind of rotate it 90 degrees. And for the subdivisions along the axis, let's dial that all the way down to 6. Okay, so we want to have 1, 2, 3 spokes, and then we want to have some room between those spokes. So 1, 2, 3. So this will give us a chance to do that. All right, I'll go ahead and just scale this down a bit. Okay, make it a little bit thicker than the rest of this. Okay, so we get something like that. Now I want to create a curve that matches up with this, and so I'll use this as a guide. We'll go to Create CV Curve Tool. We'll kind of start from right here. In here we'll add a few lines, and then come in here and just draw this out. Then we can come back in, modify it. I'll grab those CVs, and this one's going to be fairly sharp. We'll have to do some cleanup once we do our extrusion. That's okay. Now if you want to make a shape that's different than this, go ahead and do that. Just use your curve to draw that out. Okay. So once we have our curve, it doesn't have to be perfect. Once we have our curve, I'm going to go ahead and move it down here into position. So I'm going to move it right on top of, let's say, this face right here. Okay. Now we don't need this piece for this particular wheel, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that. Alright, so we get something like that. So now we can extrude this face based on this curve. So select the face, shift select the curve, do an extrude. Okay, we can go ahead and set that taper back to 1 for now. Want to add some divisions so it follows along. Now we're going to get some overlap in there, and that's okay. We'll set this up here, maybe something like 18. If we want to change the taper, we can taper that down a little bit. Okay, now let's go ahead and start to clean this up a bit. So if we come here in the side, okay, let's go ahead and delete our history. And now let's start to modify this a bit. So I want to make this a bit wider up here. And I want to clean these up so that we don't have that overlap. Okay, so I'll just select those points and kind of move them out of the way so we get a little bit more of our gap back there. We'll make this our point. Okay, and then we just do a little bit of shaping here. And again, if you want to make something that's a little bit different, you can certainly do that. Make this our interior point here. And then just manually come in and shape this as it comes down. Create the shape that you want. See that where we've got this overlap, we'll come in and just pull these out, pull those up to create that gap. Okay, want it to be a little bit thicker at the base. So we'll go ahead and do that. Again, we want that corner to be kind of tight, so we'll put some of these a little bit closer together because we know we're going to be smoothing this. So we'll make sure to do that. and just continue to pull these in a bit. Again, creating that point out there. Alright, so we end up with something like that. We can look at it there. Now we don't need the polygon on the end, so I'll just drag across that to select everything, and then control drag to select these. That leaves that last one selected, and I can delete that. You can see it doesn't have to smooth over that one anymore, so it makes it look a little bit better. Alright, let's select all of the points on this side. So on screen left, select all these points coming down, and let's go ahead and just scale those in a bit. Alright, so once we have the base for this, and we can continue to modify this if we want, I'm going to bring this out a little. But once we have one of these spokes, we want to obviously repeat that around the rest of this. Alright, so what we can do is go ahead and select those polygons, just the ones that are part of the spoke. And we want to keep this one. We don't want to delete it. So instead of extracting, we want to actually duplicate the faces of that. So we'll come down to under Edit Mesh, go to Duplicate Face. We want to separate those out, so we'll go ahead and duplicate faces. Okay, so if I drag over both of those and then control click on that main one, I get the duplicate here. You can see I can drag that off. So I'm going to go ahead and take the pivot and move it right down to the origin. So I'm going to go to Inset on the keyboard, and then X, and just pop that right down to the origin. Insert again, sorry. And so then if we rotate this, we go ahead and delete our history. Freeze the transforms. And we go ahead and drop it out of that group. So hit Shift P to drop it out. Now we can rotate it around. Now you can see if I rotate this, see I rotate Y set to 0. If I rotate this down here, it's about 120 degrees. And we need 2 of those. So we could duplicate, we could rotate this and then duplicate it again. Okay. So if I rotate this down 120 degrees, and then I could just duplicate it and rotate this one to 240. Okay. All right, so now we have 1, 2, 3 different pieces, and we want to combine these together. Okay. The first thing that I'm going to do is select that face inside there. If we go turn on wireframe shading, I want to select this face inside, which is going to be the base for each one of those. And I'll select the face under this one too. So that's now hollow. Okay, so if I move this out of the way, you can see that's now hollow inside there. Let's turn on our two-sided lighting. Okay. Now, before we can actually make these one piece, we need to combine them. So we'll select all 3 pieces, go to Mesh, Combine. That makes them one polygon, but it doesn't make the points get merged together. So what we want to do is select the points. You can see right now if I select one of these points, just clicking on it and moving it, it's not connected to the other one. Okay, so we need to drag across both of those points. Okay, and then we can go to Edit Mesh, Merge. After the merge, if we select one of these points, now they're together. So we'll just go through, select these points, merge them together. Same thing here, and I'm just hitting G because merge was the last thing that I did. Okay, and so now I can select this and move it around. And then we just have 4 to do over here. And because we don't have a lot of points here, we don't have to be too careful, but oftentimes you want to be careful when you drag across points that you don't accidentally select, something over here and you're merging something over there. So now if we smooth this out, we get something like that, which is a little bit closer to what we want. Now let's say we want to sharpen up this side over here. we can go ahead and start to add just a few edge loops in there, maybe. So go to Insert Edge Loop Tool, and let's maybe change that settings here. We'll do relative distance from edge, and we'll just drag it in. Okay, and then we'll just do the same thing on the rest of these. Alright. Sharpen it up a little bit. I want to create a little bit more detail in here, so I'll take both of these. Let's do an extrude. And pull them out a little bit, and let's just scale them down slightly. Okay. Hit G to do another extrude. Pull this in. G to do another extrude. And now just pushing that in. One more to tighten up that interior. And then we get something like that. Okay. Now, if that's going to be too wide for a fork, we can always go in and modify that. You can also make this a little bit thicker if we want to grab those points just on the ends. And kind of rotate and scale them out. So we make sure that the changes that we make on one spoke are the same for the rest of them. And then we've got kind of a front wheel. All right, so you can create one piece and duplicate it around your axis and then just combine it with your geometry in order to create some of these pieces. In this case, our spoke. So the next thing that we want to do is, I think, to start to build the handlebars. So we'll go ahead and use another NURBS technique to do that in the next lesson.